Welcome to class number 3 of JavaScript. This class we will be looking at the data structure and objects, two important aspects of the language. Okay, as usual, we'll take a look at the agenda. In the agenda, we will be reviewing the class 2 materials and followed by today's class. In today's class, we will take a closer look at two data structures in JavaScript, arrays and objects. Okay, so what did we do in the last class, class number 2? We took a look at the background of JavaScript. As we discussed, JavaScript was invented in the 1990s as a way to add web programming in the browsers, and subsequently people had used JavaScript in just about in every website today, as to power websites to do programming forms and validation and execution and so on. And recently, JavaScript is also becoming popular in the backend programming as well. People who are developing desktop applications, people are developing for the cloud and the backend infrastructure, especially because of the Node.js open source software. The JavaScript is now also heavily used in the cloud programming as well. Then we took a look at some of the basics of JavaScript. We learned what are values. For example, integer 5 is a value, string hello is a value, numbers, as you know, and operators. There could be arithmetic operators, the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulo, comparison operators like equal to, not equal to, less than, greater than type of operators. After that, we learned what programming structure of JavaScript is, in terms of what is an expression. 5 times 5 is an example of an expression, and a statement, right? An if statement or a for statement, assignment statement, function statement, and so on. So there are anything that has a collection of expressions is what we call as statements. We looked at condition statements, conditional statements. There are 4 of them in JavaScript. The very first thing was if, else. If a particular condition is satisfied or true, then a set of instructions or statements get executed. Else, a different set of statements get executed. Very often used in programs. Then we also took a look at while loop. The way it works is while there is a condition, and if that condition is true or satisfied, then we execute a set of instructions or set of statements. Then we also learned about for loop, where it's start with the initial count all the way to the final count. Whatever is within the for loop, a set of statements would get executed. Last but not least, we also learned about an elegant conditional statement called switch in JavaScript. Primarily when you have a condition where there are many if-else statements, you don't want that to be put down as a bunch of if-else statements. So an elegant way would be to start with a switch, and when that condition of the switch is satisfied, for one number of conditions, case 1, case 2, case 3, and so on. So that is something that we learned as well. Towards the end, we also looked at functions. A function is nothing but a set of statements that does a particular job or gets a particular job done or work done. Typically, functions have parameters. We have been using the console.log as a function quite heavily, right? Right from the very first program, Hello World program, we have been using console.log, and console.log is an example of a function where it takes a parameter or an argument, whatever you specify in quotes, that gets displayed on the terminal. And then if we want to display a particular variable, then it displays the content of the variable. So typically a function has parameters or arguments that it works with, and then some of them also return values. So we'll take a look at some of those functions as well. So those are all the things that we did in class number 2. In today's class, we will take a look at data structures and objects. The very first data structure that we'll take a look at is array. Array is very commonly used in JavaScript, and the way you do that is you first you declare a variable, and let's say this is the name of my array called list of numbers. And one way to initialize this, you just say equal to, and you use a square parenthesis called square parenthesis, and within whatever you specify within the square parenthesis is nothing but the initial value of the array. For example, in this case, I have 5 values, so each basically 5 elements in the array, 2, 3, 5, 7, and 11. And so list of numbers array consists of 5 elements. So the size of the array is 5, or the length of the array is 5, and it has 5 elements. And the way they are referred is this is the 0th element, this is the first element, this is a second element, this is a third element, this is the 4th element. So whenever you see the length of the array is n, then it has 0 through n minus 1 int elements of an array. So for example, after you declare and initialize this array, if you say console.log list of numbers within this square parenthesis 2, so 2 means that I'm interested in the second element or the second index of the array. So this is the 0th index, this is the first index, the second index is 5. So the computer will display 5 as the value. Here is another example, console.log list of numbers 2 minus 1. 2 minus 1 is 1, right? So that means we are interested in the in the first element of the array. So the first element is, this is the 0th element, this is the first element, which is 3. So as you can see, that the computer will display 3 in this case. So what we'll do right now is we'll go through writing a program using arrays. So that's the best way to get trained on any particular language. You start writing programs. I think that's the best way. So here again, we'll write programs using arrays and see how we can execute them in Node.js. Okay, so as always, we'll first bring up our Notepad++. So let me bring it up. So we'll start writing the program. So usually what I do is I start giving the comment for the program, so people know what type of a program that we're writing. So we're just going to say this program is to learn arrays and objects in JavaScript. Okay, so that's a simple way to tell people that this is what we are trying to do in this program. And the very first thing that we will do is we will declare a variable called a list. So let's just do this, list of numbers. So this is my name of the array, and it is going to be an array. So I'm going to use the square parenthesis. So I'm going to declare or I'm going to initialize the array with some values. Let's say 4, 8, 17, 25, 98, 2000, 205, and 987. Some values, right? So I've basically given 7 values, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 values or 7 elements in the array. So I've declared an array list of number, and I have also initialized the array. So the next thing is we're going to first display that array. So let's just say console.log list of numbers. So we'll just call it list of numbers. So it'll be easier to do the list of numbers, right? List of numbers. Okay, so that's all. So it's a 2-line program. After the comments, we just declared and initialized the array, and we're going to display the content of the array. So first we'll save this. We'll save as, we'll go to desktop, my folder, and we'll call it a JS file, right? JavaScript file. And we'll call it arrays objects.js. Okay, so that is done. So let me see if I can go to that folder. I can see it here. And so the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring up a command prompt, right? So command prompt is here. and I go to cd desktop, cd igl bot folder. If I do a directory, I can see my arrays objects.js. So I'm going to execute by typing node array tab. So basically I'm executing node arrays objects.js. And as you can see, so it displayed, right? So if we bring up our program is nothing but an array of 4, 8, 17, 25, 98, 205, and 987. As you can see, it has displayed that array. So this is a very simple program to just display the array. The next thing what we want to do, let's say if you want to know, how many elements are in this array, right? So far we have 7 elements. How are we going to find that out? So the best way to find, there is a way to do that is, so you can just say, always try to indent the things. The length, right, of the array is list of numbers, right, dot length. So this is the beauty of that. So basically whenever you say list of numbers is the array, if you use dot length, it'll return the number of elements in this array, which is 7. So this is what we would expect. So in that with semicolon, let's save it, go back to our program, let us run it. As you can see, it displayed the array. The length of the array is 7. There are 7 elements in this array. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now let's say if you want to display, I want to know the first element of the array and the last element of the array. So how are we going to do that? First, we can comment this one out. We don't need to display this every time. Even the length of the array, let's say I don't want it anymore. So anytime you don't want it, you can just put a comment. So console .log, let's say the first element of the array is list of numbers of 0, right? So basically this will display the first element of the array. If you want to display the last element of the array, so let us say console.log, the last element of the array is, let's say, list of numbers of, right? You want to say list of numbers dot length, right? -1. So basically what this means is list of number of length will give us 7. 7 minus 1 is 6. So, and then if anything that is within parenthesis of 6 of the array will give me the last element, right? This is the 6th element. This is the 0th element, first element, second element, third element, fourth element, fifth element, the 6th element. So this is how you get the last element of the array. Okay, so let us see how this works. Let us save it. Let us execute it. Yeah, the first element of the array is 4, last element of the array is 987. So 4 and 987. So that's a simple example of how you would calculate or declare an array, initialize the array, how to use the array, how to display the entire content of the array, how to get the length of the array, how to get various elements, first element, last element. If you want to get the third element, all you have to say is list of numbers within parentheses 3. So then it will give me 0, 1, 2, 3. The third element is 25. So it will display 25. All right. So this is a simple example of how one would declare array, initialize array, and use the array in JavaScript. Okay, now let's go back to the presentation. So now we have a pretty good idea of what arrays are and how to use them. The next important data structure is called objects. Objects are very simple. So basically, the way you declare them is using var, and this is the name of the object. Let's say my object, and equal to, and the way you declare them is with a curly parenthesis. So anything that you put between two open and close curly parenthesis, this entire thing is called an object. An object can have many attributes, right? One of the attributes can be, the attributes are generally in the form of a name value pair. So there is a name and there is a attribute name and attribute value. So here is an example of an object where the object name is my data, and it has two attributes. The first attribute is course, and the attribute value is CS101. So this is Computer Science 101 course. And the second attribute is called period, and it has three values, because let's say if your Computer Science 101 has three periods, 9 in the morning, 3:30 in the afternoon, or 1:30 in the afternoon, and 3:45 in the afternoon, then you basically it's an array, right? So first one is a string. The first attribute is a string value. The second attribute is an array of strings. So this is an example of how one would you declare an object and use an object. So like with anything else, we'll go back to our program. So let's go to our famous array program. So let us comment out all the arrays, right? We don't need arrays anymore. So just comment out all that, and let's go declare a train object. Okay. So let's say var my train. This is a train object. I'm going to start with the curly parenthesis, right? And my train has got a starting station. So let's say the starting station is Chennai, and my destination, right? The destination station is Coimbatore, comma, and it has timings. Let's say I have 4 trains, right? Timings, and it's an array. Let's say it starts at one of them. First train is at 9 o'clock. Second train is at 15:34. Third train is at 17:25. Fourth train is at 23:15. Okay, comma, and the train has got a fare, right? So we can say the fare is 3:45. Okay, so I've declared an object. It's called my train. It has 4 attributes: start, destination, timing, and fare. The start, destination, and fare, they're all string attributes, right? So they all have strings. The timing is an array of strings. It has 4 elements corresponding to 4 trains, right? Starting from 9 o'clock in the morning till 10:55, 11:55 at night. Okay, I have declared it as the train. The very first thing we want to do is to say, okay, let me just display the object, right? So the very simple command is console.log, or the statement is console.log my train, right? So that's a very simple way. This is how powerful JavaScript is, that you don't need to worry about a lot of the stuff. You just say, hey, display the object. So I'm going to save it. Let's execute it. See what it says. There, it displayed my object. The object is start Chennai, destination is Coimbatore. It has given all the timings and the fare. All right, so this is a very simple way to display the train. Let's say how many trains are in a day, right? We should get 4, correct? So the way to do that is, now we don't need this anymore. You can comment it out. Now, if you want to take a look at number of trains, right? So we want to know number of trains. So we can declare a variable called var number of trains. Okay, so initially we'll keep it to 0, and so if you want to know the number of trains, so number of trains equal to my train, right, dot timings dot length, right? So basically my train is this object, timing is the attribute, and it's an array. And if I do a dot length like we did in the array example, then this will give me 4, right? Because there are 4 elements elements in this array called timings, and we're keeping them in the variable called number of trains. So we can display that by simply providing console.log number of trains. We can even say something like this in quotes: the number of trains is number of trains. Okay, so basically we'll display number of trains is followed by whatever this value is, and we are expecting 4 because there are 4 trains. Okay, let's save it. Let's run it. The number of trains is 4. Cool. All right. So now we want to say, um, where is my last train, right? When is my last train? Last train is nothing but, if the number of trains is 4, the last train should be the index, the third element, right? If the total number of trains is 4, then we want the 0th, first, third, and the third index in this array, right? So we can do that by saying, so we don't need, okay, that's fine, we can keep it like that. Console.log, the last train between Chennai and Coimbatore is, okay, we want my train, right? We want to go to the object dot timing of number of trains minus 1, right? So basically the number of trains is 4. 4 minus 1 will give us a 3. So timings of 3 will be timings of 1. Now timings of 0, timings of 1, timings of 2, timings of 3. So this will be 2013, and that's what we are asking the console dot to print it or display it. Okay. So we'll save it and run it. See what it says. Number of trains is 4. The last train between Chennai and Coimbatore is 23:15. So which is the last one. All right. So that concludes how you would go and use arrays and objects in the program. So please follow this along and create a brand new program and start writing the variables, the statements, and start executing them. You will run into some syntax errors, some errors. Node will point out where the errors are, but you'll be able to get a good hang of that. Okay. All right, now let's go back to the presentation. So that concludes our class number 3. So before we say goodbye, we will also take a look at a quiz. There are 3 quiz statements or questions for this class. The first one is, how do you determine the size of the array? So I've given examples in terms of how to determine that. So size and length are the same. The second one is, we'd like you to write a simple array containing the days of the week, right? The days of the week is Sunday through Saturday. So create a simple array that contains these days. The third one is, write a simple object containing at least one array. So I've shown you how to create a train object with one array, which is timing. So we would like you to write a simple object. You can pick anything and create an object, but make sure that it contains at least one array in the object. All right. So with that, we say thank you and thanks for your time, and look forward to seeing you in the next class. Bye now.